Okay, today we're going to talk about verbs in the same way we just talked about pronouns and nouns over the last two videos. Verbs are essential, so I want to talk a little bit about how verbs fit into our language. As I said about nouns, the way I think about nouns is they were probably the first words that human beings invented, right? Because we needed to name things. And that took us a long way as a species in communication. Once we could name objects, we could communicate with other human beings, but it was very limited. If the cave people could only identify the woolly mammoth or the saber-toothed tiger or the fire, but they weren't able to talk to each other about what to do with it, the communication was limited. This is why human beings invented verbs. And I'll say that every sentence that human beings have ever said or written since the beginning of time until the end of our species, in every language, works the exact same way. We have sentences that talk about something that does something. Every sentence we've ever spoken, every sentence we've ever written, in every single human language, has something that does something. It's the does something that's the verb. So verbs. There are three types of verbs. And I'm going to talk about all three and show you the difference. And then we will look at some examples. There are two types of main verbs. Action verbs and state of being verbs. Sometimes called linking. English teachers in elementary and middle school called them linking. But that's a big mistake. They told you that because you couldn't, as little kids, understand the idea of state of being verb. And you'll see why when I talk about that. I'm going to go very brief on action verbs because action verbs are when the something in the sentence is actually doing something. Okay, so I'm going to let that one go because this is what most 10th graders already understand about verbs. Okay, it's when we get to the state of being verbs, sometimes called linking, that kids begin to get confused. Okay? So here's my quick difference between state of being verbs and action verbs. Here's a sentence, and I expect you all to call out what is the verb. Here's a sentence. The man smelled the shoe. What is the verb? Smelled. Like I said, every sentence has something that does something. In this case, the something is the man. What does he do? He smelled. That is an action verb. It's an action verb because you saw me do it. Now check out this sentence. The shoe smelled bad. What is the verb? It still smelled. But did my shoe do anything? No. So it can't be an action verb. Well, what kind of verb is it? It's a state of being. The reason we call it a state of being is because the word smelled shows how this shoe be. Now, I know that's improper grammar, but that's why we call them state of being verbs. State of being verbs show how something exists, how it be. All right? So, when we have a sentence like, the boy is tall, what is the verb? Is. And what in that sentence is the boy doing? He's being tall. The word be has been replaced by is, but it's still a state of being verb. As a test for that, I call it the redneck test. Don't make you sound like a redneck, but it's a great test to find out if the word is a state of being verb. So in our sentence, the boy is tall, I could take is out and put be in, and the sentence still has the same meaning, even though you sound like a redneck. That boy be tall. That boy is tall. By putting the be in, I've checked to see if it's a state of being verb. Can we do it with the shoe sentence? Sure. The shoe smelled bad. The shoe be bad. Okay, it changes the meaning a little bit, but it's only a test. to see if this is actually a state of being verb. We're good? Okay. That's the difference between state of being verbs, also known as linking, and action verbs. Now there's a third kind of verb, all right, called helping verbs. There are only 23 of them. I will post a song so you can remember them. But helping verbs come when a verb is more than one word long, okay? And there are 23. They are is, am, were, be, being, been, has, have, had, may, might, must, can, could, shall, should, will, would, and that's it, okay? And you need to know them in that order. I will give you a document that will help you to understand that order and why that order fits. But like we talked about with nouns, verbs can be more than one word long. They can be between 1 and 4. That's it. You can never have a verb longer than 4. And the way that happens is through helping verbs, adding one of those or more of those 23 verbs to the main verb. Okay? I think at this point it's better for us to look at some examples. So like I said at the beginning of this lecture, every sentence has a verb. If it doesn't, it's not a sentence. Okay? We find the verb by asking ourselves, if every sentence has something that does something, it's that does something that we're looking for. So in our first sentence, the tiger jumped on the antelope. There's something that does something. The tiger is jumped. We highlight jumped. Jumped is the verb. Now we ask ourselves, is that an action verb or is that a state of being verb? Well, in this case, it's an action. Okay, so we would label it done. Let's look at another sentence. Joe has been eating too much. There's something that does something. The something is Joe, and what does he do? He has been eating. Now we have to label each one of these. Well, we know that has and been are on our list of 23 helping verbs. We know that eating is an action verb, so we can mark it helping, helping, action. Every sentence must have a main verb, and it has only one main verb. And that main verb can be either action or state of being, also known as linking. In this sentence, that's this one. That makes that one and that one helping verbs. Some students are tempted to say helping, state of being, action. That's wrong. There's only one main verb. There's only one action or one state of being. That's it. Always. All the other verbs, parts of the verb phrase, helping verbs. Let's look at one more example. We might look at a couple. Clyde was in Denver last month. Something that does something. Clyde, what is he doing? He's being in Denver. Well, what word is standing in for being in this case? Was. That makes that a state of being verb. Let's use the redneck test. Clyde was in Denver last month. Clyde be in Denver last month. You sound dumb, but it's just a test. That is a state of being verb. We go to example 5. Bo is being very silly. There's something that does something. The something is Bo, and what is he doing? He's being very silly. So is being is the verb. What kind of verb is it? Well, we know there's only one action or one state of being. It's this one. The last verb in the verb phrase, that makes is a helping verb. Helping verb, state of being verb, done. Let's do this one really quick. I might have eaten the whole cake. I is the something. What has it done? It might have eaten. Again, in a verb phrase, there's only one action or one state of being. That's always going to be the end one. So that's an action, helping, helping, done. We'll talk more about adverbs on the next video. Thank you.